Laya Healthcare, looking after you always. Proud sponsors of Real Health with Karl Henry.
Hello and welcome to Real Health with me, Karl Henry, in association with Laya Healthcare. Folks, for this week's show, I speak to competitive freediving champion Claire Walsh about breathing techniques and how it can improve wellness and enhance performance. Claire made a big decision to give up her day job and concentrate full-time on freediving with fantastic success. And she also gives courses on how to use your breath to reduce stress. I'm delighted to say she joins me now. Claire Walsh, welcome to Real Health. How's it going?
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. So I'm going to get straight into it. You can hold your breath underwater for 6 whole minutes. And I'm fascinated about that. I want to find out lots and lots and lots about it. Tell us about freediving and what it is and how you train to be able to do 6 minutes underwater holding your breath. It's a phenomenal physical achievement.
So for full disclosure, I can't actually hold my breath for 6 minutes. I hold it for 5:59. That 1 second is the bane of my life. So 2020, the goal is 6:06. Let's round it up a little bit. So 5:59 is my record at the moment. So yeah, there's lots of different ways of approaching it. Freediving has a number of different disciplines. So the 5:59 refers to a discipline that's called static apnea. So that's lying still, static, on the surface of the water, airways, so mouth and nose submerged. And that'll typically be your longest breath hold.
Wow. Okay. And tell us about the other aspects of freediving then. So I suppose in your head, when people think about it, you think, I don't know, big flippers and going very, very, very deep underwater or something along those lines.
And that's not far off. So the other disciplines, and they're the ones I suppose that I'm more keenly interested in, are the depth disciplines. And that involves the surface of the water and kicking down. Well, there's a few different ways of getting down as deep as you can and then returning all on one breath. So, I often hear how freediving is the second most dangerous sport in the world. I'm still unsure of the first one, actually. So it does sound really, really extreme, for thrill seekers and so on. But it's really funny, when I hear people describing it like that, they're describing a sport that I don't recognize. To me, calm, tranquil, humbling are words that are far more accurate to describe the experience that is holding your breath and traveling underwater. So it's quite different to this wild, extreme experience that people's perception is.
And on that, so how deep can you go on one breath? Tell us.
59 meters. The sixes just don't seem to work for me. So it's 5:59 breath hold and 59 meters depth.
Wow.
So to put that into context for people, particularly those in Dublin, the top of Liberty Hall down to the bottom is 60 meters and then back up. So you're diving all the way down and all the way back up on one breath.
And how do you train for something like that?
Lots of different ways. Obviously, there's a whole set of exercises that we do dry, so when we're not in water. And then there's a whole series that we do once we hit a bit of depth. And like any sort of sport, there are cycles within that. But at the moment, I'm not landlocked, but I'm certainly away from any sort of depth facilities. So I'm doing a whole load of work around increasing my breath hold and being able to tolerate higher levels of CO2, which is something that happens, and just trying to nudge my way further past that 6 minute mark, and then hopefully once I get to water, into the 60s.
And was freediving something you always wanted to do? Was it something that came kind of along just in life and you randomly decided to try it? And how did you get into it?
Yeah, not a bit of it. I'd never even heard of it before 2015. I was traveling in Central America and I was snorkeling and a couple of guys kicked down from the surface and I thought this is the coolest thing ever. And I was so competitive, I kicked down myself and sure, I didn't get very far down. So that evening, kind of very nonchalantly, was asking them a little bit about it. And they described what it was, where you could do a course. So the next day, I booked a flight and a boat and a train and whatever out to an island of Honduras. And that's where I did my beginner's course. And I presumed it would be like the other activities I tried, so paragliding or zip lining or scuba diving. It would be forgotten once I got home, but that wasn't the case. It kind of only it was the tip of the iceberg for me in terms of, wanting to go further into the sport.
Okay, and further you did go. You competed in France last September at the World Championships, breaking the Irish record. Tell us a bit about that, because it wasn't plain sailing in the World Championships at all. It was tough.
No, not at all. Gosh, it's amazing to reflect on it now. And I was chatting to someone, and this time last year I was in Egypt. I had started my depth training. I'd done base training, and what I was working on predominantly was actually my headspace. When I decided to do this, the first thing that came to my head was, those voices that'll tell you, who do you think you are? You're not good enough. All those voices that, in different circumstances would stop you going for something. So that was kind of, I think, my biggest challenge. And at this time last year, if you had asked me, okay, well, what's the worst that can happen, Claire? I would answer, I'll black out in my first dive. And there are other people there, they're way better than me, and I'll be mortified and it'll be awful, and so on and so on, so forth. So I really put a lot of time and space and effort into trying to manage those thoughts, but also practicing that particular dive. My coach and I set it up formally. I got my official countdown, and we just bashed out that dive again and again and again so that I could do it in my sleep. Fast forward to September. Spoiler, it did not go well. Fast forward to September, and it was the first dive, and I blacked out on the surface. So, I casually, mention blackout like it's no big deal. And it isn't a big deal, not in the sport of freediving. And I understand now, I suppose that's why people perceive it as being really, really dangerous. But it is part of that, of the competitive nature of the sport. You are pushing yourself. You are, testing the boundaries mentally and physically of what your body is doing. So yeah, I had a blackout on the surface of the water. And the first thing I thought of when I came to was that it was my parents' first time watching me dive, and they had to watch that. So I still need to apologize to them for that one.
I love how casually you mentioned the word blackout.
I know.
In a phenomenally dangerous environment, which is you're on the water, you blacked out fully, you came to yourself.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the health and safety component. Presumably there's somebody around who can jump in and save you if required.
There's lots of people around it. And funny, I only watched the video of it last weekend. So, around me there's 4 safety divers, then a further team, and then a team of judges. So, what happened was I was holding onto the rope, keeping myself up out of the water. And it's like, did you ever fall asleep on the bus or on the dart or whatever, and you just kind of nod forward and then come back awake? It's kind of like that. You don't have a sensation of, oh gosh, am I losing consciousness? It just happens quite instantly, and then you come to just as quickly. But yeah, I was grabbed by the team, and they started to just clear my airways, make sure I could breathe. So I woke up with a beautiful Frenchman trying to give me a kiss. Not the worst way.
You're an eternal optimist. I think you can certainly use that to describe you. What goes through your mind over the course of 5 minutes and 59 seconds? So presumably a lot of what you do, you train to do, is to calm the mind in a very stressful situation, to focus on being in the moment, I would imagine.
Yeah.
To get yourself through that such a long time doing something that is unnatural in many respects.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And the reason why I like that discipline is because of that aspect. I say to my students, without trying to terrify them too much, you really meet yourself on a breath hold. You can't lie to yourself or to anyone else for that matter underwater. Your body emotions will bring up whatever is there. So I liken it to, this idea of fake it till you make it. So when you're on the surface, You might be absolutely stressed, but still with a big smile on your face, running around, multitasking, and inside the stress levels are just rising. In the water, that can't happen. What will happen is you'll tense up and you will have a hypoxic event, maybe not necessarily blackout, but you won't get to anywhere near your target depth or target time. So you really need to be, one, I think, really honest with yourself of where you're at mentally. And then the rest of the journey is, well, it's really exciting. The first part is relaxation. So you do anything that distracts you in a positive way from, what time is it? Are we at 30 seconds? Or are we at a minute? You know, the more you think about time, the slower it goes. So what I do is I sing in my head. Whatever song comes into my head, I just imagine the back of my eyelids like a karaoke screen, and I see the words just travel by. That's it. That usually takes me to about 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And then things get a little bit uncomfortable. So your body starts reacting. You get that urge to breathe. You have a buildup of CO2, and that's the really important time. So your body's experiencing discomfort, and you need to learn or try to really soften into that. There's no point pretending it's not happening. There's no point saying, oh, this feels great, because it doesn't. So it's a really good lesson to try and adapt to, you know, whatever's happening, however uncomfortable. You can't distract yourself like, you know, maybe I would on land, taking out a phone, watching mindless TV or whatever. So here you have to deal with it. Okay, I can't breathe through it at that point, but I can focus on every single little part of my body and look for areas that I can release tension. And that to me is the most challenging part. The last section I call, I suppose, fight mode. And that's when you dig in your heels, chin down, grit your teeth a little bit, and just get through. And it's really interesting how you know, what strategies you use to do that. And I break everything up into little chunks. I count to 10 in my head, again and again and again, and just positive affirmations with myself the whole time. And I'm at 6 minutes.
you make that sound so simple. Oh, a couple of shows, we actually had him on twice. We've had Jerry Hussey on the show twice,
yeah.
and you mimic a lot of what he said, you know, what he talks about in terms of being your real self and being comfortable with your real self, and taking that on, and being comfortable with yourself. And when it comes to extreme sports, I think sometimes a lot of people tend to run from certain things into those extreme events.
Yeah.
And so, you know, coming to terms with and liking yourself is a key thing for what you do.
Absolutely. In fact, there's a funny coincidence to that. I was at Wellfest 19, and it was May, and it was my last weekend before I headed off to Egypt to travel. And again, those voices were coming in. Who do you think you are? What are you doing, Claire? And myself and my sister I had, you know, an ex beside Jerry's talk, and myself and my sister went down to listen. And, you know, I took a couple of notes when I got home that evening, but I read over those notes so many times over the next couple of months. So it's something, actually, I associate Jerry with that time in my training, and then came back to that idea a number of times over the next couple of months, and in fact, the last year.
And is self-belief something you have always had? So you're driven, you're focused, you know, the belief in terms of breaking the Irish record, of setting those big targets and big numbers that you're hitting. Was that something you were born with, and if not, how did you develop that?
No, not at all. I think I'd be like most people, you know, self-doubt is huge. And I would suffer from, you know, analysis paralysis. You think about something so much to the point you actually can't move into action. The end of 2018, I wasn't in a good space at all, physically or mentally. And I just thought, like, enough. You know, you kind of wipe your hands and go, I'm done. I need a project. I need to focus. And what I did was I found something else to focus on. So if I did think of, you know, the top freedivers in the world, if they noticed me there and they're laughing at me, all these kind of notions you build up in your head. So I parked that, and I focused on the idea of being the first person to represent my country in the sport. And even saying it now, I get such a warm glow. So Jerry does talk about, you know, finding your why and making it bigger than the reasons you stay stuck. And that for me became such a big motivator. So, walking, carrying an Irish flag, in the athletes parade is still my favorite moment of 2020.
Okay, so your why is phenomenally strong. How does the future look then? What's the next why? You've achieved amazing things. Presumably, when things go back to normal, you get back to Egypt, you get to go back training. What's the
Yeah.
next thing?
Well, it's funny. I've kind of held off making plans because I was to compete in April and July and so on. So I think for 2020, I'm going to park everything and stick to teaching for the moment. But the next World Championships is in September next year. So I set my sights on that. But, something that I have thought about, 2020 was when I was supposed to, beat my 6 minutes. And I haven't done much to do that, to move towards that goal. Because pools have been closed, those excuses come rushing in, but there's a lot I can do in the meantime. So it was only the other day, myself and my diving buddy started to do out a plan to chip away. And we have a second dry session actually this evening. So so I'm going to chip away. I'm going to break the 6 by December of this year.
Tell me a little bit more about breathing techniques then, and how our listeners can incorporate them into everyday life.
Yeah, it's fundamental. I say freediving, it helps me live better on land, and particularly over the last few months when things have been uncertain, stressful, whatever, and people are going through. Breathing has just been such a phenomenal way of just grounding myself, of changing things from the fight or flight mode. And, we feed that every time we scroll through Instagram or Facebook and hear the numbers and so on, of stopping that and switching into the parasympathetic nervous system. And the easiest way to do that is breathing into your tummy. So diaphragmatic breathing. And it's a tool that we have with us, wherever we go. So, something I started doing a lot more frequently in the last couple of months was checking in myself first thing in the morning and last thing at night, whether it's done in my bed or getting up and putting on a piece of music that I enjoy, placing my hands on my tummy and just feeling the breath move my hands out and then back in. So there's no real secret to it. It's about staying relaxed, breathing as efficiently as possible. Very often when I chat to singers or whoever, and I ask them, can they take a big deep breath in? And what I'll see is this. And we have shoulders right up at the ears. So, it's about, I suppose, like I say, don't invite this part here to the party. And don't invite your chest and shoulders to the breathing party. Keeping it lower and just taking a moment to slow things down. And I think checking in with our breathing, it's such a luxury in terms of time that we don't do. And the benefits are huge. So a 2-minute practice 3 times a week, the benefits, far outweigh it.
And do you think people are more aware of their breathing over the last maybe year or 2 years? The likes of meditation, mindfulness becoming more popular than ever before?
Absolutely. And I think it's absolutely terrific. I think I went to a physio a little while ago and he told me to just take a deep breath. And actually I've named my course that because that's terrific advice, but learning how to do it is brilliant. And now we have more practitioners, incorporating it into sports, teaching how to do it, and then like that, how to incorporate it into day-to-day life to help reduce stress, anxiety.
So I suppose if it's okay, chat us through a little taster of that for people listening in terms of how do you take a deep breath? How does that look and how can we do it?
Absolutely. So I do this in a freediving context. So I breathe through my mouth. Typically, if you want to encourage relaxation, you breathe through your nose. Out of habit, I still breathe through my mouth. So I'm going to place my hands on my tummy. So what I do is I put my thumb in my belly button and baby finger down towards my pelvis. Baby finger my belly button and thumb up towards my chest. So I'm cupping my belly. So all I'm doing there is just giving my body a tactile cue of where the movement is going to happen. Then I'd usually close my eyes lower my chin to my chest just a little bit and soften my shoulders. So I round forward just a little bit more to bring my attention right down into my belly. So breathing through the mouth or the nose, you're going to breathe in for 4 and out for 8. The exhalation is actually really, really important, and it's about having a sense of control over that exhalation. So the ratio I usually work with is breathe in for 4 and out for 8 to 10. So as long as the exhalation is longer than the inhalation, it'll start to slow things down. So how that might look. So if I was going for a competition, if I had a competition dive in 20 odd minutes, you'd find me out of the water, sitting like this, hands on my belly, rounded forward a little bit, eyes closed, chin to chest, breathing like this. So I'm making a restriction with my mouth so that I can control that exhalation. And even, doing it once, you feel things slow down a little bit. Even the sound is a positive anchor for me in that one. So it has such an incredible effect over your whole physiology, and the thoughts even start to slow down. And we can use that wherever we go in whatever situation. It's such a fantastic tool to have.
Even doing that with you there, I did the same with Dermot Whelan a couple of weeks ago when we had him on, and I can physically feel relaxed and slower, and it's all nice and chilled. So some people may struggle with the mindfulness component of that, or it's slowing their mind down a little bit. And obviously, the more you breathe, the more you'll be able to slow that down. Considering what you do and tying that in with your breathing techniques, are there any tips around that for slowing down racing thoughts? A stressful day where your head is racing, your thoughts are racing. I think in the modern day, particularly over the last couple of months, people are beginning to struggle with that a little bit.
Absolutely. And taking that first dive, I had a dive a couple of days later, and I really needed to rein those thoughts in. So a game I play is just counting. So breathe in on 1, breathe out on 1. Breathe in on 2, and you start counting. And the minute your head goes to other thoughts, you start from the start. So I guarantee you're not going to get much further than 3 or 4. I think 4 is my record. And then I got excitement. I'm at 4. I'm winning. And then you lose and start again. So it's just finding little hooks to, I suppose, focus your brain in a little bit. And the big piece around that, obviously, is, no judgment and compassion. So if you do find your thoughts racing, not beating yourself up for it, just noticing it and starting again.
Do you have any tips around it? Finally, I suppose people who are having, who fall off the wagon, who have a bad day. And so from your perspective, if you have a bad dive and, it's getting back on the wagon, getting back on track as soon as you can, and any tips based around that?
Yeah, for me, it's just getting back into your body. And the easiest way of doing that is breathing. So that gap between my dives, I wanted to deliberately stay out of my head because those thoughts could have gone off, on a wild one. So again, it's something really, really simple. I started to sing quite a lot, my poor neighbours at the time. But because I'm a trained singer, I know how to support my voice with my breath. So it was a way of checking on my breathing in a way that just made me happy. It kind of let go of those thoughts. So for people who maybe don't sing, finding some activity, like it can be, make a cup of tea mindfully, take it through slow steps, and just focus on the breathing behind it and the actions. So something really, really simple.
My final question for you, and just as you're chatting there, I had Liberty Hall in my head and being that far underwater. How does that feel? What does it feel like to be unsupported with oxygen? It's your body you've trained to do it, but to be that far under the water, it blows my mind. Absolutely. Can you describe to us just the feeling of that, of what it feels like, and what goes through your mind when you're that far down and that deep?
It is the most incredible feeling ever. I describe it, and it sounds really, really cheesy, but it's true. It's the closest feeling I'll ever have to flying. At that point, you're weightless, so you're negatively buoyant. So you descend relatively quickly and you're in a state of relaxation. Your eyes a little bit closed. You feel the cool water going over your face, over your hands, the parts of your body that aren't covered by the wetsuit. It's, you can't hear anything. And you're weightless. We never get to feel like that. It is so calming. It is so humbling because you are, in this place that not many people have seen. So often, that moment of the turn, once you hit your target and turning, as a beginner free diver, you think, oh God, I need to get up, I need to get up, I need to get up. So the challenge there is to stay calm and to enjoy that movement that'll get you through. So in that sense, it is quite humbling. You have to have a huge amount of trust in your body, trust in your thoughts to stay calm and to get you back up. But if you manage that, if you have a dive where, your body and mind kind of align a little bit more, it's nothing short of magical.
And what a wonderful way to finish. It's been fantastic getting to know you. You haven't met before, and every now and again you have a guest coming on. It's a topic that's a little bit left of center, but it's brilliant when the guest can fulfill that to its most. And it's been absolutely fascinating getting to listen about it. If people want to find out more about you, where can they find you? That's very important.
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Claire Walsh Life, and you can find out about my courses or what I'm doing in my training on clairewalshlife.com.
Fantastic, Claire Walsh. Thank you so much for joining us on Real Health today. Much appreciated. Folks, just remember that 5 minutes and 59 seconds. Try that at home yourself and see how you get on in a safe environment, obviously. I really hope you enjoyed today's show on Real Health. As ever, you know where we are. We're at Karl Henry PT on Twitter and on Instagram. And as ever, we'll be back next week with more Real Health podcasts. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.
Laya Healthcare, looking after you always. Proud sponsors of Real Health with Karl Henry.